Israelis thought by jamming our satellite system, the world would not have any access to information. And they didn't know that we had a backup system that was able to transmit live some of the events. And obviously, it was dark in the middle of the ocean, so they thought they had it all taken care as far as like no information would come out. They would be the only ones holding the information because they were obviously filming. And we were hundreds of people, so some of us did manage to get, photographs and video footage out, and today we are showing raw, uncensored footage, and everybody can take the clue, and we'll make it available to the world for
Interestingly, in the video that you've been showing here, obviously in the outdoors, it's very dark, and unless you have a light, it's kind of hard to make out what's going on unless you have a flood lamp on. But the footage that the Israelis posted on YouTube, it looked like it was daylight. And could you talk about how they managed to do that? Because it looked like this was occurring in the middle of the day, not as it was at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, video technology. I think once people start using our footage for investigation, they will always be able to brighten out and analyze frame by frame, But it was 4 a.m. It was dark,
In an interview with the New York Times, Dr. Hassan Hussein Uysal, a Turkish doctor, said he treated Israeli commandos who were captured and briefly detained during the initial stages of the raid on the ship challenging the blockade. And then the soldiers were given back to the Israeli commandos.
Which basically proves that we were not there to lynch anybody, because we had the opportunity of killing or really like mistreating these soldiers, and we didn't, because we are humanitarian. Despite the chaos, we knew we were supposed to stay nonviolent.
One of the amazing things to me is that given the number of people that were on that boat, the lack of any attempt by especially the U.S. media, including this account in the New York Times, which is the only attempt to, quote, reconstruct what happened, are not really giving details. How were these people shot? Where were they at the time they were shot? What were their wounds like? What was happening around them? There is really no attempt to reconstruct an incident where there were hundreds, literally, of witnesses to what actually happened.
That's why we demand our footage back, because they confiscated all our hard drives and camera equipment. We could reconstruct the events if we were giving our footage back and not the IDF used in a manipulative fashion. They are extracting things for their stories and putting on the YouTube IDF channel. This is like complete violation of respect for media and,
Yesterday we interviewed two reporters from the Sydney Morning Herald, reporter and photographer, Paul McGill and Kate Garrity, and she managed to secrete a few of her discs out. They found others, but they kept all of their equipment, $60,000 to $80,000 of equipment and hard drives. They repeatedly said they would return it, but on the Turkish dock, there was none of it. People can go online and see her photographs on our website. Interestingly, also, a group of top Israeli Naval Reserve officers Sunday, this was in, I believe,
in
Haaretz, publicly called on Israel to allow an external probe into its commando raid of a Gaza-bound humanitarian aid flotilla. They wrote a letter to Netanyahu and the Israeli Defense Forces chief. The Navy officers denounced the commando raid as having ended in tragedy with both the military and diplomatic levels. They said, "We disagree with the widespread claims that this was the result of an intelligence rift. In addition, we do not accept claims that this was a public relations failure, and we think the plan was doomed to failure from the beginning." They said, "First and foremost, we protest the fact that responsibility for the tragic results was immediately thrust onto the organizers of the flotilla." That's Israeli Navy Reserve officers demanding an independent investigation.
Yeah, I read this article, and I think the international community must keep putting pressure for an independent, unbiased investigation, and we must get all our footage back to reconstruct what happened. I will make my footage available. That's why it's uncensored, it's raw, and people can bring their international lawyers who need to apply international law to investigate those crimes.
I want to read here just from the Guardian's coverage in England on Friday, which I think is one of the few that actually attempts to explain what happened, and they're reporting the forensic report of the Turkish authorities, where they say that, as you were mentioning, a total of the 9 people who are so far identified as dead, 30 times they were shot. 5 were killed by gunshot wounds to the head. And interestingly, it says the 19-year-old Volkan Dogan, who also has U.S. citizenship, was shot 5 times from less than 45 centimeters in the face, in the back of the head, twice in the leg, and once in the back. At less than 45 centimeters, you're talking at almost point-blank range that he was shot 5 times. Our
main internet person in our media room also got shot in the head. You know, this was not like non-premeditated.
Was he killed?
No. The only people killed were the Turkish people and this one U.S. citizen. Yeah, but people were getting.
And how was he shot in the head?
I don't have the details, but I know since we were always with the media department that I've heard that he was the one that got shot.
The Guardian report also says that 48 other people suffered gunshot wounds, and that 6 activists remain missing.
Yes, and
have you identified who those missing are?
Obviously, we cannot jump to conclusions, but they are not hurt, they're not injured, they're not killed, they disappeared. I don't know. It's something that must be investigated. I mean, some people even speculate that we had spies, so maybe some of these missing people were, you know, Mossad agents. We don't know. We need to investigate. Were they thrown off the boat?
What happened to you after?
Everybody got handcuffed and basically kidnapped from international waters to Israel. And when we arrived there, they said, sign here that you're going to be deported because you're legally in Israel. And we were like shocked. We didn't want to be in Israel. We were kidnapped from international waters and brought to Israel. And we were completely incommunicado. All the questions.
Did you agree to sign?
No, at the beginning we didn't sign, we didn't answer questions. I mean, most people. Myself, I said, listen, I need my embassy, I need a lawyer, I'm not going to be submitting myself to this kind of interrogation. But we were incommunicado, you know, and I think the embassies put a lot of pressure, and then a couple of days later, or even 3 days later, I can't even remember because it was just so chaotic, the embassies were able to start talking to us, and we were able to make 1 phone call to our families. Not everybody even managed to make 1 phone call to the family, just say that
How
we were
long
alive.
could you speak? Well, how long could you speak? On the phone?
Oh, no, it was just like, you know, 1 minute. And me, I had to call my office because people are working. And then the security girl, she hangs up saying, I told you can only call home. I said, but my sister is at the office. I can't call her at home. She's working. She didn't allow me to say not even 2 words. I just said, are you at the office? And then she hangs up.
Where were you deported to?
The ship was brought to Ashdod port, and apparently they had organized already a few months earlier, or a few weeks earlier, a whole prison facility to accommodate us. It was a new facility that was ready to keep hundreds of people, innocent people.
So you were held there for a number of days, and then where were you deported to?
At the very end, we didn't know. We thought we were going home. And when we got to Tel Aviv airport, they told us that we were all going to Istanbul. And then I found out that the Prime Minister of Turkey had sent Turkish Airlines airplanes to evacuate us all. That was another, like, a huge drama because the Turkish Prime Minister said that we would not depart until everybody was returned to especially the president of IHH, the IHH, the main humanitarian organization. So we sat at the Tel Aviv airstrip on the planes for many, many hours in complete agony because there was some sort of declaration that if they didn't release the president of IHH, this would be considered a declaration of war. And I was just like, my God, this is getting more and more surreal by the minute. And but finally, very late, I think it was like in the middle of the night, they released the president of IHH. We took off and we landed around 4 a.m. in Istanbul, all of us.
Well, Yara Lee, I want to thank you for being with us. When are you releasing this at the United Nations today?
So it's today at 4 p.m. for the United Nations press people and also outside media people. They can just go to our Facebook or culturesofresistance.org to get information.
Thank you very much for being with us, Ciara Lee, filmmaker and director of the Cultures of Resistance Network that brings together artists and activists from around the world on the Mavi Marmara. She got this footage smuggled out that we aired today, and there is a full hour that they will be releasing later today. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. Back in a minute.